Good morning, my dear students. How are you all? I hope everyone is doing good. So, do you know something? Don't see others as doing better than you. Beat your own records every day and you will surely find success. Remember, success is a fight between you and yourself. So, before we move on to the lesson, let us see something interesting. A voting poll booth set up for just one voter in Gujarat. India's most privileged voter, Mahant Bharat Das, resides in a small hamlet called Banij in the middle of Gir Forest, Gujarat. The setting up of a particular polling booth for just one voter goes for a long way in speaking decibels about the democratic spirit of the country. So, before starting the class, I would like to ask you all some questions. So, how do you think trade happened before the arrival of money? Yes, it happened through barter system. So, what is barter system? Barter system is nothing but exchanging goods with goods. That is, if I have wheat, I can exchange it with someone who has rice. So that is the barter system. Now, what do you think the advantage and disadvantage of money was? The advantage of money is after money came into existence, the confusion with equal amount of trading goods were sorted out. So what do you think the disadvantage of money was? It created classes among the people. Like we have the poor people, the middle class people, and then we have the rich people. Now we are going to see how some of the powerful nations tried to dominate the other nations through colonialism and imperialism. First, let us know about the meaning of imperialism. The word imperialism came from the Latin word that is imperium, which means power. Now let us see some of the definitions of imperialism. The first one is the policy of extending a country's rule over the others. That is called as imperialism. Then the aggressive behavior of one state against another is also defined as imperialism. Then a country's domination over the political and economic interest of another nation to exploit its natural resources. So these are the three definitions of imperialism. Now let us see how imperialism and colonialism is related. So imperialism is the concept that is it is an ideology to dominate over other countries. So they want to be the superior power, they want to dominate the other countries. So colonialism is the process, a policy to acquire and maintain other countries for exploitation. So imperialism created two classes, that is indigenous majority, that is the ruler, and we have the minority foreign invaders, that is the foreign invaders who occupied or conquered the other countries in sake of their rulers. Now we are going to see about the major forms of imperialism, that is military imperialism, we have political imperialism, then we have the economical imperialism. What is military imperialism? Military imperialism is nothing but, so ruling a country directly by the military force is called as military imperialism. If we see about political imperialism, ruling a country indirectly by keeping a puppet government, that is for name's sake, is called as a political imperialism. Imperialist country controlling the economic power of another country only to exploit its natural resources is called as economic imperialism. We have the first cause, that is the Industrial Revolution. So the imperialist countries like Britain had protected trade policy, so they were not able to find raw materials and markets. They had to find the raw materials and markets from other countries, which eventually led to the progress of the means of transport. The second cause is national security. So the sense of national security and self-sufficiency among the European political groups instigated colonial imperialism. So often the presidents or prime ministers worked towards colonial imperialism owing to the influence of the business or some other interest. So by imperialism, they started to develop a pride over their race, culture and language. Then the acquisition of the colonies enhanced prestige. That is, they thought that if there was a colony under them, it was a prideful thing for them. So then we have the white man's burden. So the white man's burden was they thought they were the only civilized people. So they thought it was their opportunity to civilize the other people, that is in the other countries. Then we have the fourth cause, that is the balance of power. So the concept balance of power was one of the driving factors. What they did was the European countries were forced to acquire new colonies to achieve a balance with their neighbors and competitors. So they wanted to, if the other country had more nations, they also wanted equal amount of nations under them. So they were forced to acquire the new colonies. Then we have the discovery of new routes. The discovery of the new routes to African and Asian countries promoted the spirit of imperialism. That is, the discovery of new sea routes paved the way for traders and soldiers to come to other countries. The next cause is the growth of population. So, due to the growth of population, many people became unemployed. So, this unemployment forced Europeans to emigrate to other countries in search of lands and career opportunities. Okay. So, the next cause is state of anarchy. So, there was no international organization to enact and enforce laws for nations. So, as you can see, before the World War, there was no organization like the League of Nations to stop the countries from acquiring another country. Now let us see the techniques of imperialism. We have the first technique, that is the conquest and annexation. So if we see about the conquest and annexation, in the early modern times, the Europeans used to send their soldiers to distant lands. So they overpowered the chiefs, then conquered the lands and established the colonies. So this is a method of conquest and annexation. So the second technique is concession or franchise. So sometimes an aggressive agency would acquire an exclusive right to exploit some economic resources in a backward region, and it was called as concession or franchise. Next we'll move on to the leasehold. When an exclusive right to exploit some economic resources was accompanied with the grant of lease, they started to extend their lease, and they took control over it politically, and that was called as leasehold. Then we have the sphere of influence. So, a state will acquire a backward region economically and not allow the other states to establish control over it. Like if you see in India itself, British occupied Madras, right? So they did not allow the French or any other European countries to acquire our place, that is Madras. So that is also an example for a sphere of influence. So protectorate is nothing but the powerful nations, they rule indirectly the weaker or backward nations by keeping a puppet ruler under them, and they will rule through the puppet ruler. That is the protectorate. Next we have the economic or tariff control. So in some cases, the powerful nations could take the economic control of a weak or a backward region or its tariff system. So this method was called as economic or tariff control. So the seventh technique and the very important technique, that is the mandate system. So some countries, if they get decolonized, they would not have been self-sufficient. they were not self-sufficient, means they could not take care of their own nation properly. So the League of Nations, what they did was they placed these countries under the powerful nations, so to support them through this mandate system. So this was the seventh technique. Let's see about the effects of imperialism. The first one is the positive effect. So the positive effects are they developed transport and communication facilities, they improved medical care, then they had better methods of sanitation. So this led to the less death in colonies, and it improved the standard of living of the people. Then it promoted order, discipline and unity in the countries. Next, we have the negative effects of imperialism. So the colonies had no freedom. So as you can see in this picture, the first students are not very comfortable there. They are forced to sit down there. So this is also an example for the negative effects of imperialism. They had no freedom. So the second one is the colonies were exploited to the natural resources. Then we have the colonies became suppliers of raw materials and markets. Then the colonies plunged into poverty and unemployment. They faced poverty and unemployment. Then we have the traditional pattern of agriculture changed to produce raw materials. So first, if we ask what were their occupation means, they would say agriculture was their occupation. So this system changed after the introducing of imperialism. That is colonizing, after colonizing the countries. Then we have Western culture and education led to the loss of traditional culture in colonies. So as you can see in our country itself, first what dresses and what language they used are totally different from now, right? So next we have the extinction of certain African races due to slave trade. So they started to sell the people just because of their race. Then they have a race discrimination was followed in some countries. So like Africa and most of the Asian countries, race was a very big problem. It was they dominated the other people. That is, if we see in Africa, the whites dominated the black. Now let us recall what all we studied in this class. So first we saw about the meaning of the word imperialism. That is, imperialism means power. And then we saw the three definitions of imperialism. Then we moved on to the major forms of imperialism. That is political, military and economic imperialism. Then we saw about the 7 causes of imperialism. Then we moved on to the 7 techniques of imperialism. Then we moved on to the effect of the imperialism. That is, we had the positive effects, then we had the negative effects. So there is a video which gives more information. Watch it and enjoy it. So thank you students. Have a great day.